Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Vaibhav class. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatariणे Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone. We are continuing our discussion from Canto 4 and we are on, I think, 5th chapter. No, which chapter we are on? We are on 3rd chapter.
Second chapter.
Sorry?
Second chapter.
Second chapter. Okay. So, in the beginning of the 4th canto, we heard Maitreya Muni, he starts describing the dynasty of the daughters of Swayambhu Manu. In the 3rd canto end, he described the marriage of Devahuti, and he continues the description of the daughters of Devahuti, the 9 daughters of Devahuti. And in that description, the story of Atri and Anusuya came, and then he described about the daughters, other daughters, Prasuti and Akuti also. So in the description of Akuti and Prasuti, he said Prasuti, he had 16 daughters. 16th one was married to Lord Shiva, and she didn't have any child. In response to this, Vidurji asks a question in the 2nd chapter. How is it that? Because Maitreya Muni told she died prematurely because there was a clash between the son-in-law and father-in-law. So then asks, what was the reason of this clash? Because Shiva, Lord Shiva is Charachar Guru and Daksha is Duhitra Vatsala. So how is it that such a dissension happened between them that Sati had to leave her body? Maitreya Muni starts the description how one time Daksha, he arranged a big sacrifice and all the Devtas were there. Brahmaji was there, Lord Shiva was there. And Daksha, as he entered the assembly, everybody got up, apart from Brahma and Shivji. Because Brahma was a father, so Daksha didn't mind. But Shiva, he didn't get up. Daksha became really angry. And he became angry like fire. And he started telling, this personality, Lord Shiva, he is destroying the name and fame of the Lokpal, the directors of the universe. He is Markatalochan, he is Lupt Kriya Shuchaye, Bhinna Setave, so many bad words, such blasphemy, such insult. And Lord Shiva, all the while, he didn't say anything. He just continued sitting there, hearing all the bad words. And then Nandi and all the associates of Lord Shiva, they became angry. Nandishwar, he started cursing. He started cursing Daksha. He gives 3 curses to Daksha. May you be bereft of all the knowledge of the Supreme Lord and the knowledge of the soul. May you be absorbed in karma kand. And ultimately he said, may you have a goat head. And I think we discussed till verse number 23. So cursing and counter cursing went on. First, in these verses, he cursed Daksha. And then he started cursing the Brahmanas from 24th verse onwards. So I'll recite the verse and then we will read the translation. Let's share this.
The screen share చేసి
Okay. Vidya buddhira vidyayam karma mayyam asaujadah samsaranto hai ye chamam anusarvavamaninam. Translation.
Those who have become as dull as matter by cultivating materialistic education and intelligence are innocently involved in fruitive activities. Such men have purposely insulted Lord Shiva. May they continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death.
Now he starts cursing all the Brahmanas. The first curse on the Brahmana is Vidya, Buddhi, Avidya. By cultivating this materialistic education and intelligence, which is actually Avidya, this materialistic education, it is like engrossing in the fruitive activities, karma mayam, karma may, all the knowledge of this world. That's why Ishopanishad says one should cultivate vidya and avidya. What is avidya? Vidyam cha yastad vedubhayam. Veda means to know both. So avidya means the knowledge of this world, and vidya means knowledge of the other world, spiritual world. Both are needed. But the problem is, if somebody is just focusing on avidya, the materialistic education, he becomes karma maya. Karma maya means he becomes involved in fruitive activities. Karma maya, mayam. So he becomes fully absorbed in fruitive activities, and as a result of this, Taksha, he is dull, and those people who are supporting Daksha, they have also become dull. So what will happen to them? Samsmarantya. They'll keep on wandering in this cycle of birth and death. May they continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death because they have Sharva Vamaninam. Sharva means Lord Shiva. They have insulted Lord Shiva. So Prabhupada writes, very strong line. 3 curses mentioned above are sufficient to make one as dull as stone, void of spiritual knowledge, and preoccupied with material education, which is Nishayans. So, ordinarily, people, they will not find any problem with this. What's the problem? Why it is described that one becomes dull like a stone? Because one can never understand the higher subject matters. Whenever the scriptures, they speak about these words, dull like a stone. Uh, uh, in the second canto, we have heard a series of verses. If the ears are not used for hearing the glories of the Lord, they are like. Can anyone tell me? Anyone remember? If the ears are not used to hear the glories of the Lord, they are like what?
Holes of the snake.
They are like the holes where snakes live. If the mouth, if the tongue is not used to speak the glories of the Lord, it is like
Frog's tongue.
the frog's tongue. So, all these things, they are compared with such gross elements because the actual purpose of the human form of life is to develop self-realization. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, see, these curses are sufficient to make one dull as stone. That means the stone will never take to spiritual life. One becomes completely preoccupied with material education, which is nishayans. Jada vidya jata mayara vaibhava tomara bhajane badha मोह जन्मिया अनित्य संसारे जीवा के कोराएगा धाम भक्ति ठाकुर राइट्स सुनने में बहुत पोइट्री लगता है बट बहुत गाली दे रहे हैं इसमें वो बोल रहे हैं जीव को गधा की तरह बना देता है मोह जन्मिया when one just cultivates the material knowledge jad vidya it is the maya vaibhav it is the glamour of the material energy it is not so conducive for spiritual realization. So the three curses which he gives to Daksha says Prabhupada writes sufficient to make one dull as stone. And then after uttering these curses, now Nandishwar is cursing the Brahmanas to continue in cycle of birth and death. So Chakravarti Thakur also writes in 2.5 verses, now he is cursing the Brahmanas. So this is the first curse. The first curse was let the Brahmanas become devoid of all, let the Brahmanas continue in the cycle of birth and death. He actually gives 6 curses to Brahmanas, 3 curses to Daksha and 6 curses to Brahmanas. So the first curse was, let they remain in the cycle of birth and death. Now the second curse. Gira Shutaya Pushpinya Madhugandhe Nabhurina Mathana Chonmathitatmana Sammukhyantu Haradvishaha. Translation, please.
May those who are envious of Lord Shiva, being attracted by the flowery language of the enchanting Vedic promises, and who have thus become dull, always remain attached to fruitive activities.
So, Gira Shutaya Pushpinya, the flowery words of the Vedas, they are madhu gandhena, बहुत ही अच्छी लगते हैं, मतलब it is like, it smells very good, the flowers. Anyone remembers any words, any similar thing mentioned in Bhagavad Gita? Pushpinya, flowery language of the enchanting Vedic promises. Is there any similar, exact similar? Here comes in Bhagavad Gita also. Yam imam pushpitam vacham prabadantya vipaschitaha. Pushpita, the flowery words of the Vedas. Why flowery words? Because they promise so much of sense gratification. Just do this and you enjoy. You do little tapasya here, you go to heaven and enjoy. They are flowery words. Mathana sha unmathitatmana. So these personalities, let they remain absorbed in fruitive activities. Mathana unmathita atmana. These words, they are very enchanting. They are like the honey because they promise the heavenly pleasures. And those people who have their minds dull because of just hearing these things, they will never ever understand. They will stay absorbed in fruitive activities. Sammuhayantu, let them remain attached to these flowery words of the Vedas because they are Haradvisha, they are envious of Lord Shiva. Prabhupada writes, the materialistic standard, better standard, higher planets for a better standard. Yeah. All these Vedic promises are for, okay, go to heaven and enjoy. They are flowery language. Why? Because it is temporary. Flower has aroma, but doesn't last long. Shine punye martya lokam vishanti, 9th chapter, 21st verse, Krishna says this. Anybody, people endeavor hard to go to heaven and then again come back. So it is temporary, it is not eternal. That honey is not eternal. So this is the second curse. This is the second curse on the Brahmanas. First curse was, may you remain in the cycle of birth and death. Second curse, may you get attached to all the flowery words of the Vedas. That means get attached to Karma Kand. Karma Kand mein aap bas lag jao. And we can see these curses actively working. Most of the Brahminical community, अभी तो ब्राह्मण के नाम पे बहुत कम ही लोग हैं, पहले भी very few Brahmanas were actually practicing spiritual realization. We hear the story in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Advaita Acharya was really sad seeing the conditions of the Brahmanas of Navadip. They were the highest high-class scholars. They were using all their wealth. They were rich. They were using all their wealth in arranging marriage of their animals, pets, cats and dogs and monkeys. All that. That's why it is not eternal. So he's saying we will be absorbed in these temporary things. As Prahlad Maharaj says, Putra Shisha Shruti Sukha Mrigatrishni Rupa Vedam Kale Varamashe Sharujam Viroha Nirvidyate Natu Jano Yadapiti Vidwan Kamanalam Madulavai Shamayandurapai. He says, where is auspiciousness in this world, O my Lord? Putra, Ashisha, Ashish hai nahi yahan pe. It is all Shruti Sukh sunne mein acha lagta hai. It is like mirage in the desert. Tvedam kale varamashesh. It gives unlimited pain. Bhagavad Gita Krishna says this. Any happiness of this world is pregnant with misery. Anyone remembers the verse? Very famous verse. All the pains, all the happiness of this world ultimately gives pain. In 5th chapter, I think 22nd verse.
Yes, Spashida Bhoga. Dukkha yona evate.
Yes. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yona evate. So he says it is all mirage in the desert, little bit of pleasure, lots of pain. Ashesh rujam viroha. So therefore, a learned person does not engage in that because kamanalam, it is like a fire of lust burning. It is an inferno. And the fuel which is given to that fire is madhulavai, a drop of fire, drop of fuel. What will happen? If the fuel is less in quantity, it doesn't satisfy the fire. So he says, okay, let you be attached to these karmakandi rituals. Now, third curse he is giving in the next verse. Sarva bhaksha tujay vrityay trita vidya tapovrata vitta dehendriya rama yachaka vicharantiha. Translation.
These Brahmanas take to education, austerity, and vows only for the purpose of maintaining the body. They shall be devoid of discrimination between what to eat and what not to eat. They will acquire money, begging from door to door simply for the satisfaction of the body.
देखिए क्या क्या हो रहा है. And all these curses are actually working, happening. So third and fourth curse he is mentioning in this verse. Third curse is Sarva Bhaksha Dvijavrityai. They shall be devoid of discrimination between what to eat, what not to eat. Brahmins also, they don't know that all this non-vegetarian is not good. It is sinful. They lose the discrimination. Fourth curse. These Brahmanas, Dhrita Vidya Tapovrata, they will take up to education, austerity and vows. Vidya Tapavrat. क्यों करेंगे? वित्त देहेंद्रिय आराम. देह और इंद्रियों को आराम देने के लिए करेंगे खाली. Just for the satisfaction of the body and the senses. That's all. The purpose is, I want to enjoy. And you know how they will acquire? That is the fifth curse. The fifth curse is, मतलब third, fourth, fifth, sixth सब curses, चार curse इसी में है, एक ही श्लोक में. First curse, they will be devoid of discrimination. क्या खाना है क्या नहीं खाना है. I think Chakravarti Thakur writes that. Yeah. Third curse is they will lose the discrimination. Fourth curse, they will take vows only for maintaining their body. Fifth curse, they will enjoy body, wealth, and sense. And sixth curse, they will beg. So these are the six curses which Nandishwar he gives to all the Brahmanas. Prabhupada writes, the third curse inflicted by Nandishwar on the Brahmanas is completely functioning in the age of Kali. This third curse. Brahmanas take to education, austerity, and vows just for maintaining the body. That's all. Most of the times they have no understanding of the higher purpose of life. Most of the Brahmanas, they are absorbed in karmakand rituals. So it is actually happening. Srila Prabhupada writes, the so-called Brahmanas are no longer interested in understanding the nature of Supreme Brahman, although a Brahmana means one who knows Brahman. Brahma janati iti Brahmana. Janmana jayate Shudra samskarat bhaved dvija ved pathat bhaved vipro Brahma janati iti Brahman. So Brahman means one who knows the Brahman. So unfortunately, the modern Brahmanas or the so-called Brahmanas, they have left their occupational duties, but they do not allow others to occupy the posts of Brahmanas. So they will not follow the Brahminical standards, but they will not allow others, they will not accept others as Brahmanas. Now, because you are not born in Brahmana family, so you're not a Brahmana. So that is what Prabhupada is describing here. Qualifications of Brahmanas are described in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. 7th canto, last few chapters describe in detail about Varnashram. 11th canto also describes Varnashram. Bhagavad Gita also describes Varnashram. Chatur Varnam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. It is not a hereditary position. It is by Guna and Karma. Prabhupada writes, such Brahmanas having been cursed are actually in a position where they have no discrimination. They have lost their discrimination of what to eat, what not to eat, and they are just maintaining their family and their bodies. So that's what Srila Prabhupada writes, and therefore Prabhupada says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he condemned this principle that a person who is born in a Brahmana family is only Brahman. No, it is not like that. During his conversation with Ramananda Rai, he said that regardless of whether a person is born in a Brahmana, kiba vipra kibanyasi shudra kinenai yai Krishna tattvavetta sei guru hoye. Prabhupada is quoting that verse here. Mahaprabhu had many Shudra disciples, so-called Shudra disciples. Ramananda Rai was actually from a Kayasth family. That is a Shudra. Kayasth is a Shudra class. Haridas Thakur was Malechha. Even Goswamis were transformed, converted into Muslim religion. But Mahaprabhu made them first class Vaishnavas. Okay, so now after this, that's how Mahaprabhu he performs these activities to destroy the faith, to destroy the pride of all these so-called Brahmanas. Sannyasi Pandit Gunera Korite Garvanash, Neech Shudra Dwara Karen Dharmera Prakash, Haridasa Dwara Naam Mahatmya Prakash, Sanatana Dwara Bhakti Siddhanta Vilas, Shri Rupa Dwara Brajera Premara Salila, Ki Bujite Pare Gambhira Chaitanya Rakhela. So Sannyasi and Pandit Ganera Karite Garvanash. Mahaprabhu, he acts in a way to destroy the pride of all the sannyasis and the so-called pandits. Neech Shudra Dwara Karen Dharmera Prakash. Establish the principles of dharma through Shudra, so-called Shudra. Haridas Thakur, he became Namacharya. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, all that. So after this cursing and counter cursing is going on, now, so अभी तो cursing चल रहा है, अभी तो एक ही तरफ से हो रहा है. Counter भी हो गया ना, पहले दक्ष cursed, then Nandishwar cursed. अब इतना सब कर्ज मिलने के बाद Bhrigu Muni becomes angry. Bhrigu is the chief of the priests there. Now he starts giving curses to all the followers of Lord Shiva. That is also very nicely seen nowadays. So what he says, Tasyayam vadata shapam shrutva dvijakulaya vai Bhrigu pratyasricha shapam brahmadandam duratyayam. Translation.
When all the hereditary Brahmanas were thus cursed by Nandishwar, the sage Bhrigu, as a reaction, condemned the followers of Lord Shiva with this very strong Brahmanical curse.
Duratyayam, brahmadanda duratyayam. Nobody can retaliate this brahmadanda. And Lord has given this privilege. That's why in the story of Jai Vijay cursing, this four Kumaras cursing Jai Vijay, when the four Kumaras they cursed and Lord Vishnu came and he said, okay, Kumara said, we can, take away this curse. Said, no, don't do this. It was my plan. And he himself says, Lord says that if I have become powerful because I take the dust of the devotees on my head. And the four Kumaras, they say, he glorifies, Lord Vishnu glorifies all the Brahmanas. And four Kumaras, they say, oh my Lord, we are actually nothing. But because you are giving us such respect, that's why we have some value in the society. So that is the power Lord has given to Brahmanas. Brahmadandam duratyayam. A curse by Brahmana is very strong, it is insurmountable. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said the nature is insurmountable. Which words? Bhagavad Gita? Nature is insurmountable. Correct? Mama Maya Duratyaya.
Daivesha Gunamaya.
Mama Manadhyatya.
Again, same words, Duratyaya. So Prabhupada writes that similarly, if the curse is uttered by Brahmana, it is insurmountable. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, the Chaitanya Charitamrita confirms that which is accepted in this material world to be a benediction and that which is taken to be a curse are both material. Dvaite bhadra bhadra gyan sakali saman. It is all same. What is good, what is bad? Ei bhalo, ei manda. It is good, this is bad. It is all material only. So therefore, one should take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Now, after he starts cursing, and then Prabhupada writes, the best path is to transcend all material curses and benedictions and take shelter of Krishna. People who have taken shelter of Krishna are always peaceful. They are never cursed by anyone, nor do they attempt to curse anyone. Even if they are cursed, they are still peaceful. Tiraskrita, Vipralabdha, Shapta, Shipta, Hatapi. In the first canto, Parikshit Maharaj is cursed. Sut Goswami is telling, even if somebody is insulted, cheated, killed, tried to be killed, they never retaliate. And in the case of Chitraketu, when Chitraketu was cursed by Parvati, he never retaliated. He just folded his hands and said, oh, mother, I didn't mean it. But anyways, whatever it may be, it is the will of the Lord. He just walked away. And then what did Lord Shiva say? You just saw how the devotees of Lord are so very wonderful. Narayana Parasarve Na Kutaschana Bibhyati. They are never fearful in any situation. Even if they are cursed, they are peaceful. So he continues. So पहला श्राप क्या देते हैं अभी देखिए. The first curse which he is giving to all the followers of Lord Shiva. भवव्रतधरा ये च तान् समनुव्रताः पाषण्डिनस्ते भवन्तु सशास्त्र परिपन्थिनः. Translation.
One who takes a
One who
vow
takes
just to satisfy Lord Shiva or who follows such principle will certainly become an atheist and be diverted from transcendental scriptural injunctions.
So the first curse, two curses he gives in this verse. Let them become atheists. पाषण्डिनस्ते भवन्तु. पाषंडी हो जाओ. पाषंडी मतलब atheist. Second curse, Sat Shastra Paripanthina. They'll be diverted from transcendental scriptural injunctions. These are two curses which he is giving. Raghu Muni is giving to all the followers of Lord Shiva. Prabhupada writes, it is sometimes seen that the devotees of Lord Shiva imitate Lord Shiva's characteristics. Lord Shiva drank poison. So they imitate and drink intoxicants like ganja. Here, the curse is that if somebody follows such principles, he must become an infidel. It is not possible. Somebody is following Lord Shiva and they will, at some point of time, in some way, little bit or more, just like some time back, I went to one program. There are new people. They started attending program. It was a Shivratri day. So I gave a class on Lord Shiva's glories. And in the end, one person, he said, I have brought a special water, Charnamrit. So, and then he said, I cannot hide, but मैंने इसमें ना एकदम इतना सा भांग मिलाया. And he was saying Mahaprasad hai, Shivji ka. So, that is so very deeply rooted. So it is natural that if somebody is following Lord Shiva, at some point of time, they will do something which is not according to the principles. And they'll say, Arey, Lord Shiva did it, Lord Shiva drank. So therefore, such devotees will be Sat Shastra Paripanthinaha. They'll be opposed. And the greatest opposition comes from Mayavad. So Prabhupada writes about that Mayavad. Here Lord Shiva was ordered by Supreme Lord. It comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita purport. Prabhupada writes in detail, where Lord Shiva is telling to Parvati why he came as Shankaracharya, and that he will come as Shankaracharya. Mayavadam asat shastram prachannam bauddham uchyate mayeva kalpitam devi kalau brahmana rupina. Mayavad, it is a false scripture. Asat shastra hai wo. It is covered Buddhism. It is Buddhism only in covered way. And he says, I will propagate this in Kali Yuga in the form of a Brahmana. So Prabhupada writes about that also. Yes, Prabhupada is quoting that. He would preach Mayavad philosophy in the body of a Brahman. Therefore, the worshippers of Lord Shiva are Mayavadi followers. This is Asat Shastra. Srimad Bhagvatam, Nara Pancharatra, they are authorized scriptures. They are called as Sat Shastra, which takes one to God realization. So the two curses are mentioned here. Now, third curse, he says, let them become intoxicated, addicted to intoxication. Nashta shaucha modhadhiyo jata bhasma sthidharinaha vishantu shiva dikshayam yatra daivam surasavam.
Those who vow to worship Lord Shiva are so foolish that they imitate him by keeping long hair on their heads. When initiated into worship of Lord Shiva, they prefer to live on wine, flesh, and other such things.
The third curse is let them become addicted. Surasavam. They'll become addicted to wine and liquor and flesh and other such things. They'll imitate Lord Shiva. Whoever will get initiated in worship, Shiva Diksha, very interesting word, Shiva Diksha, initiation of worship of Shiva. So what will happen? Sometimes they'll become Nashta Shaucha. They'll become foolishly absorbed in material things. They may wear ashes and bones on their body. All these things are visible in some of the followers of Lord Shiva. Surasam, they become intoxicated. So Prabhupada writes some things about that. In the initiation of into the Shiva mantra, there is Mudrika Ashtaka, in which it is sometimes recommended that one can make his place on the vagina and desire nirvana. In that process of worship, wine is needed. So all these type of perverted things are mentioned in the scriptures read by these people, completely absorbed in material things. This is also offered according to Shiva Agam, a scripture on the method of worshipping Lord Shiva. So after speaking like this, he continues in 30th verse. Because you have supported Lord Shiva, you have blasphemed because this Nandishwar blasphemed Vedas, blasphemed Brahmanas. What will happen to you? Brahmacha Brahmanam Shaiva Yadiyuyam Parininditaha Nindatha Setum Vidharanam Pumsam Atappa Shandamashitaha. Translation.
Bhrigu Muni continued, since you blaspheme the Vedas and the Brahmanas, who are followers of the Vedic principles, it is understood that you have already taken shelter of the doctrine of atheism.
So it is not that you will become atheist, you have already become atheist. Because anyone who blasphemes Vedas and blasphemes Brahmanas, that is an atheist. So Prabhupada also writes, Brahman is cursed. Not only that, they would be degraded as atheists. They had already fallen. ऐसा नहीं कि बाद में बनोगे atheist. Already you have become atheist because you have blasphemed the Vedas. Human civilization is based on the qualitative divisions. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and the Vedas, they give the right direction. So anyone who rejects the Vedas, so much so that even if Lord comes and Lord rejects, that incarnation of the Lord is not worshipped. So that is very important. Anyone who rejects the Vedas, they are atheists. So Prabhupada writes about that. If one blasphemes the Vedas and Brahmanas, naturally goes down to atheism. The exact word used is Nastik. And Mahaprabhu, he said that followers of Buddhism are also Nastik. Bauddha Hoila Nastik. This word comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Mahaprabhu had a confrontation with Buddhists, they tried to contaminate Mahaprabhu by giving some meat and everything. And then ultimately, Garuda came, he took that plate full of meat and all the obnoxious things, picked it up in the air and threw it. And that plate fell on the head of the guru of all those Buddhists, when he became unconscious. And then everybody realized that he is not an ordinary personality. All the disciples, they ran and they surrendered to Mahaprabhu and said, please, please help us. Jiyao Amar Guru, please revive our Guru. So Mahaprabhu told all of you chant Hare Krishna in the ears of your Guru. So there Kaviraj Goswami says the disciples became the Guru of their Guru. Because disciples, they chanted the names of Krishna in the ears of the Guru. And then they ultimately Sarve Bauddha Mili Kore Nam Sankirtan. All the Buddhists, they were Gnostic. So that's how Prabhupada writes about this. In order to establish his doctrine of non-violence, Buddha flatly refused to believe the Vedas, and later on, Shankaracharya stopped this system of religion in India and forced it to go out of India. So although Shankaracharya, he started this principle of Mayava, but he did a big job of removing Buddhism from India because Ashoka was the emperor and he embraced Buddhism. Almost entire country had become Buddhists. So Shankaracharya, he did the job of throwing this Buddhism out of India. Okay, so now he continues. So first he said, you will become atheists, you will become obstacles to all the genuine scriptures, you will become addicted to intoxicants, and you will take shelter of all the atheistic vows. In this way, what happened next? Saesha Esha vai hi lokanam, Esha eva hi lokanam, Shivapantha sanatanaha, Yam purve chanu santastur, Yat pramanam janardanaha. Translation, please.
The Vedas give the eternal regulative principles for auspicious advancement in human civilization, which have been rigidly followed in the past. The strong evidence of this principle is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is called Janardana, the well-wisher of the living entities.
So he says, these Vedas, how can you reject and blaspheme the Vedas? Esh ev, these Vedas, they give Lokanam Shiva Pantha. They give the Shiva Pantha, they give the auspicious path for all the human civilization, and they are Sanatan principles. They are eternal principles. The Vedic principles, they are not temporary principles. And Yam Purve Chan Anusantastu. These principles were followed very, very rigidly in the past. It was followed rigidly. And you know what is a Praman? The Supreme Lord is himself Praman. Because Supreme Lord himself follows the Vedas. Yat Pramanam Janardana. And the Supreme Lord himself follows the scriptures. So it is not that some foolish person is following the Vedas, so why should I follow? It may be wrong. Supreme Lord himself follows. Whenever he comes, he shows by his personal example how to follow the scriptures. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he sometimes quotes the previous great sages. Chandobhi vividhai prathak Brahma Sutra Padaichaiva Hetu Madhbhirve Nishchitai. In one of the verses in the 18th chapter, Krishna says, the great sages of the past have told this. He could have spoken by मैं बोल रहा हूँ, I am the Supreme Lord. नहीं. The great sages have told this. So therefore, he's saying, great strong evidence, yat praman. Who is the praman? That Vedas give regulative principles which are eternal. Supreme Lord himself follows it. In the purport, Prabhupada gives the authenticity of the Vedas. How the Vedas are apaurushaya. They are not written by any man or demigod. Nobody is the creator of the Vedas because everybody in this world has four defects: Brahm, Pramad, Karna, Pata, Vipripsa. But Supreme Lord, He is beyond the four defects. And anything comes from the Lord, it also has no defects. We hear in the history, some people, they have coined these terms, Vedic times, pre-Vedic times. That means they are telling there was a time when these Vedas were written. It is not like that. Vedas are not written by any person of this world. It comes whenever the creation was made. Lord has given these Vedas. Of course, modern human civilization has no chronological history of the world or the universe, and it cannot present actual historical records more than 3,000 years. But no one has traced out when the Vedas were written because they were never written by any living being within this world. So that's why they are called as Apaurushaya. And then Prabhupada writes all the other systems of knowledge because they are written by somebody. That's why they keep changing. Every few years, new edition comes. Just like in astronomy, there was a scientist, astrophysicist, John Wheeler. He said, never run behind a bus, a train, and a cosmological theory because in some time other one is coming. आते रहते हैं अलग अलग आते रहते हैं new theories keep coming. It's like in medicine, every year Harrison book change. Every 3 years new edition comes. So that means पुराना वाला था उसमें कुछ गड़बड़ था अभी नया edition निकाला है with more advanced knowledge. And in the name of advancing, scientific community say अरे देखो हम नया book लेके आए हैं. But the Vedas, they have never changed because there is no defect. So what is the need of changing? So Prabhupada writes, the Vedas are accepted by stalwart scholars like Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya. And then Prabhupada describes, in the beginning of Bhagavatam, it established Teni Brahmaridaya Adi Kavaye. Supreme Lord himself spoke this knowledge to Brahmaji, and that's how the knowledge was coming in Parampara. कस्मयेन विभास्तोऽयमतिलो ज्ञानप्रदीपः पुरा तद्रूपेण च नारदाय मुनया कृष्णाय तद्रूपिण योगीन्द्राय तदात्मनाथ भगवदराताय कारुण्यता तच्छुद्धं विमलं विशोकममृतं सत्यं परं धीमहि. This is 12th canto, 13th chapter, one of the last verses. Parampara is described in this verse. How in Parampara, anybody is speaking, it is Krishna who is speaking through him. When Brahma is speaking, it is Krishna speaking through him. Kasmai, Kaha means Brahma. Tadrupena cha Naradaya. It is Krishna who spoke through Brahmaji to Narada. It is Krishna who spoke through Narada to Vyas. It is Krishna who spoke through Vyas to Shukdev Goswami. It is Krishna who spoke through Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit. So whenever somebody is speaking in Parampara, it is words of Krishna. Therefore, Vedic literatures are Sanatan. And then Prabhupada describes how this Vedic system is describing Varna Ashram according to the quality and working capacity. It is a very scientific system. So Prabhupada writes about this Varnashram system a little bit. Okay. So after cursing heavily all these followers, he continues in the next verse also. Tad Brahma Paramam Shuddham Satam Vartma Sanatanam Vigarhya Yata Pashandam Daivam Yo Yatra Bhutarat. Translation, please.
By blaspheming the principles of the Vedas, which are the pure and supreme truth, supreme path of the saintly persons, certainly you followers of Bhutapati, Lord Shiva, will descend to the standards of atheism without doubt.
So you'll become atheist without a doubt because you have offended the Vedas. So you'll definitely become atheists. So all these are going on. And Prabhupada writes, the characteristics of the lowest class of men have already been described. They do not bathe, they have long hair on the heads, they are addicted to intoxicants. One time, Srila Prabhupada, when he was giving classes, he would tell all the devotees, disciples to shave. And one devotee, he was not shaving. So Prabhupada called him, why are you not shaving? So this person said, Prabhupada, Krishna had long hair. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had long hair. Jesus had long hair. So why are you telling us to shave? So Prabhupada said, who told you about Krishna? He said, you, Prabhupada. Who told you about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? You, Prabhupada. What is my hairstyle? So he said, okay, Prabhupada. So this tendency to keep long hair, it is not a clean civilization. So therefore, Prabhupada writes about it. So after this cursing, counter cursing is going on, बिचारे शिवजी क्या कर रहे हैं? Shiva is still sitting there without saying anything. He is still sitting there till now. इतना सब चल रहा है. मैत्रेय उवाच तस्यैवं वदतः शापं भृगो स भगवान् भवः निश्चक्राम ततः किंचित् विमना इव सानुगः. Translation.
The sage Maitreya said, when such cursing and counter cursing was going on between Lord Shiva's followers and the parties of Daksha and Bhrigu, Lord Shiva became very morose. Not saying anything, he left the arena of the sacrifice, followed by his disciples.
Yeah. That was the extremely wonderful character of Lord Shiva. So we'll see Chakravarti Thakur's purport, and Prabhupada also writes wonderful purport here. Hearing that Janardhan is a subject of inquiry and worrying that Nandishwar, out of anger, would speak badly about Janardhan and his devotees, Shiva then left. So now, why he left? At this point of time, why Lord Shiva left? Because Janardhan came in between. The word Janardhan appeared there, right? So he says, Yatra Praman Janardhan, Are Janardhan यहाँ पे बोल रहे हैं, follow कर रहे हैं, and you are not following Vedas. When a person is angry, mood, anything is spoken against, they will start criticizing and blaspheming that person or thing. So now Janardhan has come in picture. Bhrigu is telling, oh, you are not following Janardhan. You are not following Vedas. Vedas are followed by Janardhan. So Lord Shiva is fearful that maybe Nandishwar will now become angry on Lord Vishnu only. And he will start criticizing and blaspheming Lord Vishnu and Shiva and the devotees of Vishnu. At this point of time, he left. He appeared to be morose. Because he is self-satisfied, he was actually not morose. The meaning of this incident is that the intelligent person should take shelter of Vaishnavas and give up Shaivites and those following the path of karma, engaging in cursing, such as Nandishwar and Bhrigu. Interesting. He's saying, give up Shaivites and those following the path of karma. Nandishwara and Bhrigu. Although Bhrigu is the best of the sages. But still, here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is telling, because he is not speaking anything against the cursing of Lord Shiva, he has also followed the path of karma. So, one should be very careful not to associate with such personalities. Prabhupada writes very beautifully. Here, Lord Shiva's excellent character is described. In spite of cursing and counter-cursing between the parties of Daksha and Shiva, because he is greatest Vaishnava, he was so sober, he did not say anything. A Vaishnava is always tolerant. And Lord Shiva, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, he has shown how he is excellent. Never ever retaliates. गुणप्रवाह एतस्मिन् कः शाप कः अनुग्रह कः स्वर्ग नरकः को वा किम सुखम दुःखमेव वा. Chitraketu Maharaj says this. Everything in this world is happening by the modes. What is auspiciousness? What is inauspicious? What is blessing? What is curse? It's all modes acting. So a devotee equipoised. Pandita Samadarshina. So therefore, Lord Shiva just silently got up and he left. So this one character of Lord Shiva is sufficient to show the highly mature and advanced devotee's character. It is not an ordinary thing. आपको श्राप दिया जा रहा है, आपके बारे में इंसल्ट हो रहा है, इतना सब कुछ बोला जा रहा है, you're not speaking a word to justify. If you are right, it is default setting, you know, anybody will justify. Lord Shiva is not at all justifying anything. Now, सब चले गए, शिव जी भी चले गए, दक्षा भी चले गए, सब चले गए, बताइए. अब बाकी all the sages, all the priests, they are still there. Now, what they did, that is another very extraordinary thing. Tepi Vishwasrija Srishtam Sahasra Parivatsaran Samvidhaya Maheshwasa Yatrejya Rishabho Hari. Translation.
The sage Maitreya continued, O Vidura, all the progenitors of the universal population thus executed a sacrifice for thousands of years. For sacrifice is the best way to worship the Supreme Lord, Hari, the personality of Godhead.
So these sages, they continued to perform the sacrifice. They completed the sacrifice. It is extraordinary on their part that they continued the sacrifice. Even if everything went wrong, the sages, they had the responsibility to continue the sacrifice for the welfare of everyone. So that's how they are duty bound. इतना सब कुछ चल रहा है and everybody left, but still they continued for how long? For 1,000 years. Prabhupada writes. It is stated here that great personalities who generate the population is interested in satisfying the Supreme by offering sacrifices. He is the Supreme Lord of sacrifices. Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam. If such activities are performed for personal sense gratification, then one becomes Pashandi. But when they are performed for the satisfaction of the Lord, then one is following the Vedic principles. They continued to follow, they continued to practice and perform the sacrifice for 1,000 years. After the sacrifice was over, then they took their bath. Aplutavyavritam yatra Ganga Yamuna Anvita Virajenatmana Sarve Swam Swam Dhamayayustatah. Translation.
My dear Vidura, carrier of bows and arrows, all the demigods who were performing the sacrifice took their bath at the confluence of Ganges and the Yamuna after completing the yajna performance. Such a bath is called Avapruta Snana. After thus becoming purified in heart, they departed for their respective abodes.
They continued their services and then they left. So Prabhupada writes a very nice, interesting purport here. After Lord Shiva and previously Daksha left, sacrifice was not stopped. The sages went on for many years in order to satisfy the Supreme. Sacrifice was not destroyed for want of Shiva and Daksha. The sages went on with their activities. So that shows here the wonderful character of the sages there. They still continue to perform their services because they had the higher responsibility of pleasing the Supreme Lord. They were not doing sacrifice to please Daksha. It was a way to show our gratitude and service to the Supreme Lord. Daksha didn't do it, sages continued to do it. That was the integrity of the sages. In other words, it is assumed that if one does not worship the Devtas, even up to Lord Shiva and Brahma, one can nevertheless satisfy the Supreme Lord. And then Prabhupada writes, she goes into a conversation of demigod worship. He writes wonderful lines here. He says, Kama Jnana, ye to bolte hain, stolen by the intelligence is stolen, they worship Devtas. The word used here is Nashta Buddhaya. They worship the Devtas, those who have lost their intelligence. यहाँ पे क्या लिखते हैं? Of course, this does not mean that one should not show respect to Devtas, but there is no need to worship them. One who is honest may be faithful to government, but he does not need to bribe the government servants. Bribery is illegal. One does not bribe a government servant, but that does not, one does not, bribery is illegal. One does not bribe a government servant, but that does not mean one does not show him respect. Similarly, one who engages in service of the Lord does not need to worship Devtas, nor does he have any tendency to show disrespect to Devtas. So, why Prabhupada is using such strong words as bribery? मतलब इसमें क्या problem है? इतना क्यों बोल रहे हैं कि bribe? Is it bribe? Because it is mentioned in the Vedas. Devta worship is mentioned. Bribe means it is illegal. Prabhupada himself writes, bribery is illegal. But Devta worship to mentioned in scriptures. So then why Prabhupada is writing it is illegal? भाई शास्त्र तो खुद ही बोल रहे हैं भाई देवता वर्शिप कर सकते हैं. Any thoughts?
Bribery means we are going against the rules and are wanting something for self-satisfaction.
According to rules, na?
Pardon?
Devta worship is mentioned in scriptures. It is according to rules.
Devta worship is mentioned in the scriptures. Why we have to satisfy Devtas or why we have to respect Devtas is because they are appointed by the Supreme Lord. So we have to respect them. But when we give something to them in order to satisfy self-interest, that is not mentioned in the scriptures. So that is differentiating point.
नहीं ये तो वेदों का तो पर्पस ही वही है ना, to enjoy gratification. The purpose of the Vedas is to enjoy, and that's why तो नारद मुनि chastised व्यासदेव, क्या कर रहे हो, क्या लिखा है आपने? People are already absorbed in sense gratification, and you have given them bona fide way to sense gratification. तो क्या है वो श्लोक क्या बोलते हैं? Anyways, so तस्य महान व्यतिक्रम, already they are interested in sense gratification, और आपने तो पूरा अच्छे से वेद बना के दिए, लो भाई मजा करो. Why it is illegal? Prabhupada, why is using the strong word illegal? क्यों भाई?
Because it will distract us from the main path. Because we wanted to serve the Lord, the Supreme Lord. That should be our motto. But rather than serving the Lord, we wanted to do our materialistic things or objects from the demigods. For the service of the Lord, we can definitely worship the Lord, demigods. and demigods can give you whatever you desire. But just for the sake of our materialistic propensities to fulfill, we are worshipping demigods. Then we are getting completely distracted from the purpose of serving the Lord. That's the reason that it is not recommended.
Yes, yes. Actually, why we should always see the context where it is mentioned. Prabhupada is writing these purports in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is a Malam Puran. Nothing less than pure devotional service is accepted in Bhagavatam. Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo. So anything less than pure devotion is bribery. So that's why Prabhupada is using these strong words. Otherwise, in the Vedas, it is not illegal.
Prabhuji, other reason what came to my mind is probably because we are supposed to get the reactions of our karmas, whatever good, bad, according to our karmas. But we are trying to shortcut some things, and we are trying to, by bribing the devatas, we are trying to, by offering to the devatas, we are trying to shortcut that particular reaction, something like that. So going against the actual law of nature.
But demigods cannot remove any karmas. Only Lord can remove karmas.
No, not the karma, but what we are supposed to get from our, based on our karma, we will anyway get. But we are trying to, give something to the offer something to the demigods and get something else, which is not part of our karma right now.
Yeah, so all these things, they are there in the Vedas, and one can worship the devatas. Second canto mein padha hai humne detail mein. If you want this, worship this devata. Third chapter mein pura wahi hai. So all these recommendations are given. All these are not recommendations. All these options are given in scriptures. Vedo mein diya hua hai sab. So when we see from a goodness point of view, it is not bad. At least Vedas, they try to bring a person to Rajoguna or good Sattva Guna. But Bhagavatam is talking about Shuddha Sattva. Nothing less than pure devotion service. It is like bribery. It is not good. So that's what Prabhupada is mentioning here, that it is illegal. Otherwise, it is not illegal. Devata worship is not illegal thing. It is mentioned in scriptures. So illegal kaise hoga? Why it is illegal here? Because anything less than pure devotional service is accepted as illegal in Bhagavatam. Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo. It is cheating religion. शुरू में बोल दिया है. Cheating religion है. शुरू में भागवतम ने गाली दी है. All the other religions are cheating religion. So that's why Prabhupada is writing here like that. Okay, so that's how this chapter ends. And now the third chapter, another interesting chapter. The talks between Sati and Lord Shiva. In this way, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law continued for considerably long period. Maitreya uvacha sada vidvishatorevam kalo vaidhriyamanayo jamatu shashurasyapi sumahanat.
Maitreya continued in this manner. The tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for considerably long period.
ससुर और दामाद में बहुत सालों सालों तक चल रहा है झगड़ा. Cold war is going on. So that's the story here. So Prabhupada writes, the chief reason for Sati's giving up her body was that Daksha began another sacrifice in which Lord Shiva was not invited at all. Generally, any sacrifice, when it is performed, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, and all the principal devatas are invited. Unless all the devatas are present, sacrifice is not complete. But Daksha ने जानबूझ के शिव जी को नहीं बुलाया है. तभी देखो क्या हो रहा है. And another very interesting thing is happening here. It is a very, very powerful point when it comes to managerial success or institutional success and personal success. Brahmaji knew the character of Daksha. He knew how he behaved with Lord Shiva, how he insulted Lord Shiva, how he is arrogant, proud. सब कुछ मालूम है ब्रह्मा जी को. अब लेकिन ब्रह्मा जी क्या कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे देखिए. यदाभिषिक्तो दक्षस्तु ब्रह्मणा परिमेष्टिना प्रजापतीनां सर्वेषाम् आधिपत्ये स्मयो अभवत्. Translation.
When Lord Brahma appointed Daksha the chief of all the Prajapatis, the progenitors of population, Daksha became very much puffed up.
Just see, सब जानते हुए भी दक्ष को ही क्या बना रहे हैं, द चीफ ऑफ प्रजापति. क्यों ऐसा कर रहे हैं दक्ष ब्रह्मा जी? कैन एनीवन टेल मी व्हाई ही डिड दैट?
What प्रभु जी?
कि दक्ष को प्रजापति का चीफ क्यों बना दिया? इतना कैरेक्टर खराब है फिर भी.
नहीं पता प्रभु जी, सोच भी नहीं सकता.
He's a powerful personality actually. He like Indra, Daksha and Brahma are all powerful positions, Prajapatis.
और किसी को भी बना सकते थे ना, कैरेक्टर इतना खराब है.
नहीं पता प्रभु जी.
That's where the dilemma of a leader comes. When a leader sees that this person doesn't have a good character, but he's materially efficient, and it is seen sometimes. A person may not have good character personally, but because he is efficient in dealing with the material things, तो क्या करेंगे बेचारे? चलो भाई, और कोई ऑप्शन ही नहीं है मेरे पास, इसी को बनाना पड़ेगा, और कोई है ही नहीं जिसको बनाएंगे लीडर. और किसको बनाओ चीफ? बिकॉज nobody else is materially efficient. So, if we see somebody who is not having good character, still he is given a position in the society, even in the spiritual institution. Even if somebody is not devotionally efficient, but materially he has some skills to manage an institution. Institution is a material thing. To manage an institution, sometimes leaders have to put that person in the chief role. But that does not mean that is a personal success. Many times we equate institutional success with personal success. This is very, very important to understand, because institution demands powerful manager. Even if a person is not good in his behavior, he is made the manager, because it is needed to run the show. This quality of managerial skill, it is needed to run the show. But if that person who is made the leader, he starts thinking, अरे देखो मुझे मैनेजर बनाया, मतलब मेरे में इतने अच्छे गुण होंगे ना, तभी तो मुझे बनाया मैनेजर. I am such a great devotee, because in the devotee community, किसको मैनेजर बनाया जाता है? It is not always the case. It is everyone's responsibility to check whether my institutional success and personal success is same, or I am lacking somewhere. So Daksha is a classic example of such a case. मैनेजरियली पावरफुल है, और ब्रह्मा जी ने बनाया है, और कोई नहीं है. ब्रह्मा जी इंटेलिजेंस पर्सोनिफाइड. ऐसा भी नहीं है कि उनको बुद्धि कम थी इसलिए उसको बना दिया. अभी क्या करें? ही इज मेड अप ऑफ इंटेलिजेंस. ही इज टेलिंग अभी ऐसा करना पड़ता है, क्या करें अभी? That's how it is so very difficult to understand the logistics. A leader has to take such decisions. And this is what is seen here. Prabhupada
So, Prabhuji, you have
writes,
point, Eric, very nice point mentioned. Like the man with too proud of his material possessions can perform any disastrous act. So sometimes we see there are people who are possessing a lot of material possession, but they are doing very good work. So it is the statement also like it can give pride if it is used in his own service. But if it is used in Krishna's service, probably the same thing can be made. He can serve in a lot of positive way also. No?
see, some statements Prabhupada writes and the scriptures they tell, they are not the cases always. It is possible that he may perform some disastrous act when he is proud. It is not that जिसके पास possessions हैं and he is proud of his possessions, तो पक्का गड़बड़ी करने वाला है. It may not be the case always, but he may do that. So Daksha, he is going through that disastrous act. He didn't invite Lord Shiva. That was a disaster for him. So in this case, it was a disastrous act. So wealth, prestige, honor, it brings pride. It comes in the 6th canto when Brihaspati enters the assembly of Indra. तो इंद्र क्या करते हैं? He doesn't get up. उनको लगता है ये तो रोज ही आते हैं, अभी आज क्या खड़ा होने का, ये तो रोज ही आते हैं हमारे गुरु जी, अभी उसमें क्या बड़ी बात. I am surrounded by all these big devtas. There the word used is Indra त्रिभुवन ऐश्वर्य. ऐसा छोटा मोटा ऐश्वर्य नहीं है, त्रिभुवन ऐश्वर्य. मदोल्लंघित सत्पथ, because of his mother, because of his pride, उल्लंघित सत्पथ, he transgressed the right path. And how this happened? Parishrita, he was surrounded by people who were offering obeisances, nishevyamana, stuyamana, they were glorifying him, they were offering obeisances. Naturally, pride to aayega hi na. So Daksha was like that personality. वो देखा ना हमने, वो एंट्री किया तो क्या पावर है दक्षा का बाबा. He is effulgent. Everybody got up. ऐसा भी नहीं कि अभी दक्षा आया तो खड़ा होना पड़ेगा. No. Automatically everybody got up. Seeing the effulgence of Daksha, so powerful he was. In 8th canto, Bali Maharaj's story, Lord tells one very beautiful verse. He says, तत्रायम यदि यस्य न भवेत् स्तंभ तत्रायम मद अनुग्रहात्. उसके पहले 4-5 क्वालिटीज देते हैं, विद्या, तपो, वित्त, वपु, वयो, कुलई, similar qualities. He says, if somebody has all these qualities, yadi yasya na bhavet stambha, if somebody is not proud, even after having all these qualities, you should understand that this person has received my mercy. Only a person who receives the mercy of the Lord, he will not be proud. जन्म कर्म वयो रूप विद्या ऐश्वर्य धनादिवि यदि यस्य न भवेत् स्तंभ तत्राय मत अनुग्रहात्. दक्ष ही इज प्राउड. तो क्या किया उन्होंने? हिष्ट्वा वावाजपेयेन ब्रह्मिष्ठान विभूय च बृहस्पति सवं नाम समारेभे क्रतुत्तमम्. Translation.
Daksha began a sacrifice named Vajpaya and he became excessively confident of his support by Lord Brahma. He then performed another great sacrifice named Brihaspati Seva.
Next translation. Translation,
While the
please.
sacrifice was being performed,
While the sacrifice was being performed, many Brahmanas Many Brahma rishis, great sages, ancestral demigods, and other demigods, their wives, all very nicely decorated with ornaments, attended from different parts of the universe.
यहाँ पे अच्छा लिखते हैं. In any auspicious ceremony, such as marriage ceremony, it is auspicious for a married woman to decorate themselves with very nicely with ornaments, fine clothing and cosmetics. These are auspicious signs. Note कर सकते हैं लोग. अरे शास्त्रम भागवतम प्रभुपाद लिख रहे हैं भाई, these are auspicious signs. So all the heavenly ladies, they were decorating themselves and they were reaching the sacrificial arena. And along with their husbands, they were going. बृहस्पति सव नाम का एक sacrifice attend करने के लिए. हाँ, यहाँ पे देखिए. It is specifically mentioned in this verse that they are their husbands. When a woman is decorated nicely, a husband becomes more cheerful. Okay, the nice decorations, ornaments, the dress of the wives of the demigods and the sages, and the cheerfulness of the demigods and the sages were all auspicious signs. सब शुभ है वहां पे, मतलब there is no inauspiciousness in that assembly. अब क्या हो रहा है देखिए, यहाँ पे सब कुछ फर्स्ट क्लास है, सब बहुत ही बढ़िया बढ़िया चल रहा है. They are all arriving in their planes. So translation, please.
The chaste
The
lady
The chaste
Sati,
lady Sati, the daughter of Daksha, heard the heavenly denizens flying in the sky, conversing about the great sacrifice being performed by her father. When she saw that from all directions the beautiful wives of the heavenly denizens, their eyes were beautifully glittering, were near her residence, and were going to the sacrifice dressed in fine clothing and ornamented with earrings and necklaces with lockets. She approached her husband, the master of the Bhutas, in great anxiety and spoke as follows.
So she was not invited. They were not invited. सबको बुलाया, इनको नहीं बुलाया. तो बेचारी सती, शिवजी is not at all affected. She is absorbed in meditation. Oh, आराम से he is absorbed. Before that, Prabhupada, seeing this this verse, he says, it seems that the residence of Lord Shiva is not on this planet, but somewhere in the outer space. Otherwise, how could Sati have seen the airplanes coming from different directions towards this planet and heard the passengers talking about the sacrifice here? So maybe Lord Shiva and Parvati, they were staying in different planet. Or टेक्निकली स्पीकिंग दिस भूमंडल में एक ये भी है ना, ग्रेटर कैलाश है, वो हिमालय में ग्रेटर कैलाश भी है, वहां पे रह रहे हैं. सो दे आर सीइंग ऑल द planes coming. Sati is addressed as Dakshayani here. She's a daughter of Daksha. She is identifying herself with the daughter of Daksha. That is more prominent here. That's why Dakshayani is used. And Dakshayani, she is looking at all these beautiful ladies dressed nicely. And she gets also the desire to go and attend. So Prabhupada writes, they look so beautiful that Sati, she was impelled to dress similarly and go to sacrifice with her husband. This is natural inclination of a woman. So it is so very interesting. Now, a wonderful conversation is going to start between Sati and Lord Shiva. Sati जाके, she is in anxiety because she knows कि मेरे पति तो जाने वाले नहीं, उनको तो बिल्कुल इंटरेस्ट नहीं है सब में, ऑलरेडी उनको कर्ज भी दिया है. Last time Sati must be there, when this counter cursing was happening, Sati must be there that time also. She knew everything. She must have seen everything. Still, what she does, what she says now, सत्युवाच प्रजापतेस्ते श्वशुरस्य साम्प्रतं निर्यापितो यज्ञमहोत्सवः किल वयं च तत्राभिशरामवामते यद्यर्थितामी विबुधा व्रजन्ति हि. Translation.
Sati said, "My dear Lord Shiva, your father-in-law is now executing great sacrifices, and all the demigods, having been invited by him, are going there. If you desire, we may also go."
सती जाके बोलती हैं, अजी सुनते हो क्या हो रहा है उधर देखो. मराठी में बोलते हैं, आई आओ ऐका. तो अभी जाके बोलती है, अजी
हो
सुनते हो.
ऐकलत का
अरे देख क्या चल रहा है यहाँ पे, बड़ साहब देवता लोग जा रहे हैं, all the wives are going. And your father, watch how she is nicely, wording it. She's saying, your father-in-law is executing. First of all, she is making a nice relation. श्वशुरस्य, अरे आपके क्या बोलते हैं, ससुर ने अरेंज किया भाई, नॉट इन ऑर्डिनरी यज्ञ. एंड इट इज यज्ञ महा उत्सव. अरे बहुत बड़ा उत्सव होने वाला है. A huge sacrifice. Everybody is going there. And then she says, if you desire, अभी शुरू में क्या बोलती है, अगर आपकी इच्छा हो तो हम भी जा सकते हैं. That's how one begins. अगर किसी को जाना हो तो, if two people are having meeting और प्रसाद का टाइम हो रहा है, तो हम क्या बोलते हैं, आपको भूख लगी होगी ना, थोड़ा प्रसाद लेते हैं पहले, चलो. तो भूख किसको लगी है, तो बोले चलो ना प्रसाद लेंगे, आपको भूख लगी होगी. So she wants to go. So she is saying, if you desire, and she knows that he doesn't desire at all for going. बोलते हैं चलो भाई, आपकी इच्छा हो तो जा सकते हैं. Prabhupada writes, Sati knew of the tension between father and husband, but still she expressed her desire. Lord Shiva, she expressed her desire that सब लोग जा रहे हैं, please आप भी चलिए ना. So now she gives many wonderful reasons why she wants to go. First reason she gives is, अरे आपके ससुर जी का है यज्ञ भाई, your father-in-law sacrifice. Second reason she gives is, all the devtas are going. A third reason she is giving. So after hearing कि सब लोग जा रहे हैं, चलो ना. So Lord Shiva may say, what is the purpose of you and I going? हम क्यों जाएं बताओ, मतलब वो जा रहे हैं तो हम क्यों जाएं. So she says, just as they are worshipped with their husbands, let me be worshipped with my husband. That is my desire. And I'll also be respected there in the assembly, right? If I go, they are all going. Translation, please. 9th verse.
I think that all my sisters must have this great I think that all my sisters must have to this great sacrificial ceremony with their husband just to see their relatives. I also desire to decorate myself with the ornaments given to me by my father and go there with you to participate in that assembly.
So her desire is, she wants to get decorated and also go. So Prabhupada writes, it is women's nature to decorate herself and accompany her husband to social functions, meet friends and relatives. मतलब जाना है लेकिन अकेले नहीं जाएंगे, पति भी हो चाहिए साथ में. That is their desire. तो अकेले कैसे जाएंगे? Decorating themselves is one thing, but wife always wants the husband should also come. And husband should also be decorated nicely, dressed nicely. अच्छे से आप भी ड्रेस करिए, साथ में जाएंगे. तभी तो लोग बोलेंगे, अरे वाह पति आपके इतने अच्छे से ड्रेस करके आए हैं. And you're also dressed nicely. So Prabhupada talks about the material basic principle of enjoyment is to have some propensity, something, some excuse to enjoy. मतलब कुछ ना कुछ तरीका होना चाहिए मजा करने के लिए. So Prabhupada writes about all that. Prabhupada says, Lord Shiva was indifferent. उनको कुछ फर्क ही नहीं पड़ रहा. He was detached. And Prabhupada writes, Lord Shiva was reluctant. But Sati, as a woman, a daughter of a king, she wanted enjoyment. She wanted to go to her father's house, just as her other sisters might have done. Here, she specifically indicated that she would decorate herself with the ornaments. हाँ, ये बहुत important चीज है. She is saying, I will decorate myself with the ornaments given to me by my father. बोल रहे हैं आपने तो कुछ दिया नहीं मेरे को. मैं घर से लेके आई थी, वही मैं पहनूंगी और जाऊंगी. So indirectly she is saying that anyways you are not attached. I know that. Still, just because I am saying, can you please come with me? So, Prabhupada writes, she did not say that she would decorate herself with the ornaments given by her husband because her husband was callous. उनको मालूम है कि पतिदेव को कुछ फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता है, तो क्या करें? विलासिनी राधा माता जी, कुछ प्रश्न है आपको? Okay, Sati is such a great lady of Lord Shiva. How is she showing the qualities of normal materialistic women? बोलिए आप लोग ही बोलिए. ये भरी विद्वत सभा क्या बोलती है इसके बारे में? Yes. Any thoughts?
Here, the Prabhupada also mentioned his purport very nicely that it's the nature of a woman actually. She is showing that woman nature. The woman's nature is to have decorate and go along with her husband. So that's where Prabhupada also mentioned that the woman is, like to go along with her husband. One thing, and then she's representing here a common woman's nature. She's not showing her pure devotional nature, although she is the consort of Lord Shiva, but she's representing that common nature of a woman here.
Yes, perfect. So that's how, whenever we see something in scriptures, we should not attribute that instance to the core quality of that person. All the instances mentioned in Bhagavatam, they are there to show a lesson, to show a principle. Because all these are pure devotees. All the personalities mentioned in Bhagavatam, they are great devotees. Even if they do something apparent wrong thing, Pururava getting attracted to Urvashi, Shobhari Muni getting attracted because of mating of fishes. All these personalities, अगर आपको याद होगा second canto में Brahma ji is telling to Narad Muni, all these are the great personalities who know the tattva of the Lord. लंबा लिस्ट आता है उसमें, याद है किसी को? It begins with I know, you know, ऐसा चलता रहता है लिस्ट लंबा. उसमें प्रियव्रत महाराज का नाम आता है, शौबारी मुनि का नाम आता है, ययाति का नाम आता है, पुरूरवा का नाम आता है. So they are all great liberated personalities बोल रहे हैं, ब्रह्मा जी बोल रहे हैं. हमने तो सुना रहे बाप रे ययाति, ययाति ने तो इतना सब गड़बड़ किया है. He was cursed to become old and he was bargaining his youth with his sons. कि भाई आप अपना youth दे दो ना, मेरी इच्छा भी खत्म नहीं हुई है. ऐसे लोगों को बोल रहे हैं liberated personality. You should not attribute a particular instance with that person permanently. वो थोड़े समय की बात है. Anybody can get affected. But
Also, it is mentioned, na Prabhu.
हाँ जी.
Also, it is mentioned, na Teji, Ashama, Dosha, like those who are effulgent, Teji. We don't find any faults in that personalities who are effulgent.
बस ऐसा ही है. Okay. यहाँ पे प्रभुपाद एक
और एक पॉइंट है इसमें, और एक पॉइंट है ब्रो जी, प्रभुपाद has mentioned in the material world there is an attraction between man and woman, and this is an arrangement of a conditional life. That means
yeah.
when a woman attracts a man and then she expand the problems, house, wealth, children, friendship, increases. And she has mentioned about the expansion of three is expanding the problem. So how to understand this for grastas?
It is both.
Those who are
Not just for men. We heard in the third canto, Kapiladev tells to Devahuti,
Mm,
it is
mm,
not that just women is Maya for man, man is also Maya for women.
mm.
So whenever such things are spoken in scriptures, we should not take it from one-sided point of view. No, स्त्री है ये, नहीं तो मैं तो liberated soul होने ही वाला था, ये स्त्री आ गई इसलिए फंस गया. No, it's not like that. The desire to enjoy is there in everyone. And that desire is propelled and inflamed by some situations. So it is both ways. Man, women, both are, it is like made for each other combination. Men are attracted to women, women is attracted to man. वो दोनों तरफ से होता है. So, no need to discuss more on this. अब प्रभुपाद ने यहाँ पे एक अच्छा लाइन लिखते हैं. यहाँ पे क्या लिखते हैं? हाँ, she wanted to. He is not at all attracted by material enjoyment, although his wife Sati was the daughter of a great leader and was given to him by request of Brahma. Shiva was reluctant, Sati was insisting. She wanted to decorate her with her ornaments given by her father. She did not say that, "Arey, aapne to diya nahi," husband was callous. He did not know how to decorate his wife and take part in social life because he was always in ecstasy. Thoughts of Supreme Lord. According to Vedic system, a daughter is given a sufficient dowry at the time of marriage. Therefore, Sati was also given a dowry by the father, and ornaments were included. It is also a custom that the husband gives some ornaments. But here it is mentioned particularly that her husband, being materially almost nothing, could not do so. कभी दिए ही नहीं शिव जी, एक भी वो है गहना नहीं दिए, कुछ भी नहीं दिए. यहाँ पे प्रभुपाद अच्छा लिख रहे हैं. It was fortunate for Sati that Lord Shiva did not take the ornaments from his wife and spend them for ganja. Because those who imitate Lord Shiva in smoking ganja exploit everything from household affairs, taking out the wife. तो प्रभुपाद भी ऐसा छोड़ते नहीं है, पूरा एकदम पॉइंट पे एकदम सिक्सर मार देते हैं. Okay, anyways, the story continues. Wonderful conversation is coming ahead. अभी तो प्रेम से बोल रही हैं, बाद में बहुत ही गुस्से में भी बोलती हैं. So we'll continue next time. हरे कृष्ण. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय.
जय.
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यो च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.